Hi. Last time that we spoke, I left. I went off to become a hermit and live life in the wild, in the natural world, forsaking human society for something deeper, something more. For the last 4 months since you saw me last, I have been living. I've been living on my own in the great wild, the untamed, the raw wild, as it were. I lived off the land. I slept under the stars. I learned the ways and the languages of the animals that walk the earth and the birds that fly above. I drank from ancient streams. I communed with nature. I became one with nature. I communed with the mountains, great and ancient. I became one with the mountains, and they one with me. And then one fateful day, I was doing my daily meditation, my daily communal with the world, and I came to the sudden realization, as a hermit, as someone living out with nature, forsaking human society, that meant something. That meant that to give up human society, I would have to give up spending hours on end perusing through bookstores, and I don't think that's something that I could live with. So I made the very difficult decision to say goodbye to the great wild and return to you, to return to human civilization, for that very important reason. It was not because living as a hermit in the wild was hard or difficult. It wasn't because I missed sleeping in my comfortable bed. None of those things were a factor. And so, I decided to return to all of you wonderful, lovely human beings, and hopefully I return as... No, not hopefully. I know I have returned as a better man than I was before. That's not true. Actually, I'm probably worse now, but it's not my problem. Anyway, I returned to you now at this particular moment in time because I figured if I'm gonna come back to human society, then I might as well go back to making these, because what else am I gonna do? I'd like to talk to you about two particular books on this fine evening. Yes, two. You thought you were getting one book, but I pulled a fast one over all of you again. You're getting two. You're getting two this time, whether you like it or not. I'd like to discuss. There we go. First, I'd like to talk about this one, this book that I'm holding right here. This particular book, the Lies of Locke, Lamora, is a, I assume you would describe as a low fantasy book written by Scott Lynch, about a fantasy criminal underworld, essentially. This is a book about a group of con men, hustlers, thieves, real scallywags, you know what I mean? This was one of those books that I went into expecting to enjoy it. It's low fantasy about a group of rogues pulling cons on nobility and their intertwining shenanigans with essentially the mafia underworld of this fantasy setting. So it was one of those books that I went into expecting to enjoy a fair bit, but it was one of those books that I came out of having enjoyed a lot more than I had initially expected to. It's not necessarily something that I'm going to, as of right now anyway, that I'm going to really dive into and really dig into and really gonna explore on a deeper level. But it is one that I would very highly recommend. It's really good. It's really fun. The book follows a group of con men who pull jobs pretty much exclusively on the local nobility and the shenanigans that ensue from this. Everything about this book is so absurdly entertaining. The characters, each member of this core group of con men and their overarching ideologies and their own strange moral code and the world that they live in is all genuinely fascinating. It's so interesting to see an aspect of a fantasy world that isn't explored super often. This concept of a criminal underground, seeing it explored in such rich detail is so fascinating. There are elements to this world, specifically this criminal underworld that the book focuses on, that is just fascinating and enthralling to read about in such a unique way. And everything about the characters and the world that this is entrenched in, and aspects of the religion that our primary band of characters ascribe to, which it sounds odd about a group of thieves, but it's in there. I wasn't expecting it, and it was really, really fascinating. I won't talk a lot about it in depth because if this is something that you decide to pick up, which you should, it's very interesting and fascinating to read about and to learn about going into it blind. And yes, you are technically following the bad guys in this book, but they're really charismatic. So I mean, can you really fault them? You know, I mean, they're just so cool. I mean, like, comparatively to, the bad guys are pitted against, I mean. But he writes these characters and the world that they're entrenched in such a way that you can't really help but be enthralled by it and pulled in by all the various aspects of it. And it makes for just a very unique and fun experience as a read, with a lot of really cool ideas and really interesting elements and stuff. I'm very prepared for this video. This is not a video that's coming out a fair few months after having read both of these books. They are very fresh in my mind, and I have lots of notes about what to talk about. The next book I would like to speak about is this one right here. Kings of the Wyld by Nicholas Ames. Kings of the Wyld is sorry, give me just okay. Very carefully. Kings of the Wyld by Nicholas Ames, I think, perhaps could be summed up best by me saying that this book is quite possibly one of the most dudes rock books that I have read up until this point. Everything about this book, it just rules in like just about every single conceivable way. The book follows a story structure that is essentially this book follows the same story structure as the Country Bears, essentially, where you got a group of guys who they used to be the best of buds. They used to be on top of the world. They used to be. I'm sorry, the comparison of this book to the Country Bears is too much for me to handle, apparently. These guys, they used to be on the top of the world, the top of their game. This band of mercenaries, literally in a universe called a band, who were at the top of their game, and then they all disbanded for whatever numerous reasons. One of them goes off to be a family man. One of them goes off to become a king. One of them goes off to study in the field of wizardry and medicinal wizardry or something. One of them goes off to prison, and so then there's this big looming threat, and the front man he comes up to one of his old bandmates, and he's like, "There's something big going on. We've got a big problem. We've got to get the band back together." So then the entire story takes on this structure of this old group of, essentially this group of past their prime rock stars who are actually inspired heavily by like classic rock bands from like the 70s and 80s. Getting back together, getting the gang all together again to go on this grand quest to free a city under siege by an army of monsters, to save the front man's daughter. And oh, it's so cool. It's so cool. Everything about this book, everything within these pages from start to finish, is nothing short of absolutely lovable. From the first chapter onwards, Ames writes this story and these characters in such a way that you can't help but fall in love, or I can't help but fall in love with just about each and every one of them. Every character within the pages of this book pops so magnificently with personality and character and personality. And so start to finish, this book is a journey that feels almost borderline like a D&D campaign that you're a part of with a bunch of friends. Everything about the events that take place and the way that it's written and the encounters that happen and the sense of humor feels like a really solid D&D campaign that you're running with your friends. And that, in my opinion, for a book like this, is a good thing. For a book like this, with the structure that it has and the world that it's set in, that is a good thing, in my opinion. And that style may not be for everyone, it may not be for you, but it is for me. It works for me. And I like it. I like it a lot. Everything that occurs within the pages of this book, the way that the main bandmates interact with one another and with the other side characters outside of the primary band, and the action, the adventure portion of the book, everything about it just screams dudes rock, Like, it's just a book about a bunch of guys who've been friends for a really long time, riffing on each other and, like, making fun of each other and, just having a good time getting back together, going off and killing monsters and being badasses. But that is not the only thing to the book, because much like me going into Locke Lamora expecting to enjoy it but not really getting anything more from it, and then getting more out of it, I went into Kings of the Wyld expecting a very humorous, lighthearted, dudes rock kind of story. And I got that, but I also got a shockingly tender and emotional story about this group of guys who are kind of past their prime and who each have their own baggage that they have to carry around, and each of them lifting one another up in any number of ways, and an emotional core to everything that really comes to life. There is a scene in particular towards the end of the book. There's this monster character that joins the gang, and everything regarding this character on a deeper level is tragically beautiful in a certain way. And there's a scene later on where you skip ahead, I guess, spoiler, whatever, where this particular character is dying, and it hit me in a way that I was not expecting it to hit. Like, I did not go into this book expecting to encounter scenes like that really made things well up inside of me. To read a scene later on towards the climax where the front man of the band gets up in front of all these other mercenaries and gives this rousing speech, and to feel really emotionally stirred by it. I wasn't expecting to read the closing pages of this book and to really feel this overbearing sense of kind of content melancholy. There's so much more packed into the characters and the story in this book than what shines through on the surface value of the humor and the wild antics and the quick pace. And it really just kind of struck me in a way that I had not anticipated, but I'm very glad that it did. Now, that aside, it is a very humorous book. It didn't get as many, like, just straight up solid laughs out of me like Mort did. Terry Pratchett's Mort did when I read it recently. I'd like to talk about it soon. But it did get some really solid responses out of me. There's a bit in here where Ames kind of parodies the opening lines of The Hobbit that really genuinely got a good reaction out of me. And like the banter between the actual bandmates is extremely solid and endearing and is so much fun to read. There are so many short interactions between these characters that are just very lovably humorous, amongst so many other scenarios that I won't name specifically because that would kill the joke, and because I think it's something you should read for yourself. And so, in conclusion to this video that I should have prepared for better, maybe conmen, maybe not so bad if charismatic, and dudes really do rock. That's today's lesson. I do already have the sequel to Kings of the Wyld, Bloody Rose, and I have not started it yet, but I am greatly looking forward to doing so in the near future. So, I guess that's it. Until however many months it is till I make a new one of these, if for some reason you want to hear me ramble about things more and longer, you could go. Me and my bud Tom, we just started this new thing, this new podcast. It is brand new. It has not existed before now. There are no previous episodes. We did not take off like half a year because I was unable to edit it. We did not do that and then come back half a year later and reboot it for like the 4th time. That didn't happen. This is new, brand new. We have never done anything like this before. If for some reason you want to go check it out, you can like go to the description or something, but like don't try to find previous episodes, because it doesn't exist. It never happened. So bye.